Hi everyone, my name is Saoirse Duggan-Madeira. My guest today is the director of the 1992 documentary film A is for Autism. My guest is Tim Webb. Hi Tim.
Hi there, Cerise. Nice to meet you again.
Actually, it's Saoirse, it's Irish.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Oh
It
dear.
happens with everyone, with a
Yeah,
lot.
yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. How are you today?
I'm hot. It's really hot. I've
Yeah,
got the curtain shut here because it's just to try and make it a bit cooler.
it's a bit
So yeah,
hot on my end too.
yeah. It's an obvious thing, I suppose. But yeah, it's hot today.
Okay, so
September.
we should probably explain to the viewers what happened last time.
If you want to.
Yeah. Well, I already did an interview with Tim, but it turns out I didn't record it.
So are you
Sorry
going to be
about that,
saying?
Tim.
I'm going to be saying the same things but slightly different. Maybe.
How did you become an animator as well as a director?
Um, I went to the West Surrey College of Art, which was the only animation BA in 1983, which is when I applied. Um, and I did a foundation before that, and then I did 6 years of dental technology before that. Um, so I didn't really know I wanted to be an animation director or go to do an animation course even, but I did my foundation and then chose Farnham because I bought a camera and then started using the camera with some of the things I was doing with my drawing and also some model stuff, inspired by some work I'd seen on BBC films. The one that comes to mind most is Neighbours by Norman McLaren. So that inspired me, and then I started to do some animation, and then I chose the only course in the country where you could do it for 3 years. The other significant course doing animation, which was very influential on me, it turned out to be after a few years, was Liverpool. And a guy called Ray Fields was running the course there, and people like Jonathan Hodgson, a massive influence, and a friend, was on that course. But you could only do animation in the second year on that course. So I chose Farnham. I went to Farnham and did this course, which was used to be much more like a cartoony course, and most of the people in the animation industry were from that course.
Like who?
Well, Michael de Dot DeWitt or Russell Brooks, a guy called Mike Smith. There's quite a few Mike Smiths, but he was amazing. He directed the Queen video, but he was just like such a natural animator. I worked with him on one of his music projects years later. He was just incredible, just to see somebody so natural. Um, so big, sort of quite big names that went through Farnham, and then it became much more a course about what am I communicating and much more political. And that's when I joined that course. And so it was for me, it became like, oh bloody hell, you have to sort of really question about what you're communicating and what you're saying with your work. That was a big learning because I'd just done 1 year of foundation where I was just painting, drawing, and doing stuff. Not really considering what I was doing. So that was a real big learning thing, but also the ethos of the course. And I think most courses, well, a lot of the courses are still the same, is that they teach by the short form. So you're making short films, so you're naturally becoming directing your own work. And then not many people go on to do that after college. A lot of people work within the industry in somewhere, and you can become specialist in something. But there's not that many people percentage-wise that carry on making work after that. And I was one of the few. And I haven't made much work, but I made a few films. And the first film I made since Farnham was A is for Autism, and that was just a lucky break, really. So yeah, it was just that was how I got into animation and directing. I just wanted to carry on making films, I suppose, and I was lucky enough to get somebody to give me some money to make films.
And if you don't mind me asking, what was it like with the whole dental machinery?
Dental technicianing.
Yeah.
I left school at 16, and not sure what I wanted to do, and I was going to go and do some more further education because I got such poor qualifications. And in fact, I did start the first week, I think, and then a job came up where I was as a sign painter, and I was interested in that, and I got that job. At the same time, this other job came up which said manual dexterity would be an advantage. I didn't even know what that was, but it means good with your hands. And I phoned my dad, and my dad sensibly, not sensibly, I mean, for him it was sensible, recommended I take the job that I'd got an apprenticeship, which was dental technology. So I did a five-year apprenticeship in dental technology, which went, took you through making dentures right through to, all the every other element. And I specialised as a ceramist. So I was using a brush like this, actually, just happens to be on the desk, to make that was use your brush a lot of the time, but to make ceramics with porcelain, which is in powder form, and it's sculpturing and baking, and so it's very skilled. But it used to tire me, and then at the end of the day I was really tired. So I started after doing the apprenticeship, and I became a dental technician for 1 year. I did an A-level at night course, and that got me back into education and the idea of doing it full time and going to my foundation. So yeah, I think it's got similarities with animation, because animation is a lot to do with repetition and copying. When you're making a tooth, you're copying a mirror form of that tooth. You're trying to copy the one next to it, and you're using color and shading, to try and get the right color. So, and then you have to sort of make it slightly bigger, because when you cook it or bake it, it shrinks a little bit. So yeah, it's quite involved, but very pedantic, like animation.
How did A's for Autism first come about?
It came about from me entering the first the Animate Award, which was an award from the what's it called? Arts Council of England, I think it was, rather than Britain, and Channel 4. So Channel 4, which was an amazing new organisation in the 80s, sponsored people like me to make films eventually, but they sponsored the Animate scheme as well. So Animate scheme was small budgets, more experimental films, and it lasted at 25 years of film. So there's 25 years of, I think it's now, if you Google it, Animate Projects UK, I think it is, to find it. But you'll see 25 years of independent experimental filmmaking. So I applied for that first competition of that, and I got shortlisted, and my idea didn't get Animate funding because I couldn't get to work with the collaborator that I'd suggested, which was Stephen Wiltshire. So that's how I ended up making A's. Was that what the question was? How did I end up making A's for Autism? Wasn't it?
How did it come about?
Yeah, so it ended up from an Animate idea, which was a film in collaboration with Stephen Wiltshire. I'd seen Stephen Wiltshire on a program called QED, which is a BBC program, and it highlighted 4 genius autistic people, and one of them was Stephen Wiltshire. Stephen Wiltshire was 9 years old at that time, and they were showing him going around London, looking at buildings, and then going back to the class and drawing the buildings from memory, and he draws in mirror form, and they're very accurate, but they're also very expressive, beautiful drawings. So I bought his book, and then my idea was then when this scheme came up was to make a film in collaboration with him about London, and trying to equate living in a city with some of these autistic traits that I read about in a book by Lorna Self. So it was being a fan of Stephen Wiltshire, and then trying to making some sort of connection with living in a city, and then that was my idea really, and to make a film in collaboration. Couldn't get any further.
I'm just looking for the name of the program.
Okay, yeah, it might take a while, but shall I carry on talking, because
yes,
I probably
course.
Can. So I forgot what I was saying. So yeah, so I put this idea in, and it couldn't go any further, because Stephen had an agent, and she was taking him around the world and was making another book, and didn't want me to have any collaboration with him. So that was in a way a good thing for me, because it ended up with Channel 4 then contacting me, Claire Kitson from Channel 4, and offering me some money to develop a new film idea based on the same idea, but more about autism, but also yeah, we to try and find new collaborators. And there was a disability season that was planned a year ahead on Channel 4, and so I had some money to go and research and try and find collaborators, and then that's when I went into the subject much more deeply, and that's why it became this sort of documentary trying to say what autism was in some sort of way, and it became the emphasis became to try and, as much as possible, use from their point of view, from an autistic person's point of view, and the initial idea wasn't like that, but that came about from talking to people who worked in autism, and Dr. Neil O'Connor suggested that idea, and it was just the best idea for the film. To try and not trying to do a film from everybody's perspective, but as much as possible from an autistic voice perspective. And the very nature of autism, or one of the natures of autism, is that there's not many people that actually do express themselves that much about the condition. So it's very rare, like people like Temple Grandin, write about it and do that. So my film relied on people like Temple Grandin and a person called Darren White, which is a pseudonym, but has written about autism, but also draws. He's one of the artists that is part of the animation. Yeah.
And I actually interviewed Temple the other day.
Oh yeah, you remember you saying you were going to.
And
Did you mention that to thank her?
And I said that you said hi.
Yeah. And did you say thank you as well? Because I wanted to thank her so much. Because she was.
Sorry, I just forgot. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I just said that you said hi.
Yeah. Did she remember me?
Yeah, she remembered working on the film.
Oh, did she? Yeah, she was amazing, because I've never met her, and I just had her book and then asked her if she would, if I could use her words, and then she sent me a tape. She recorded it in America and sent me this tape over, because this is obviously before the internet age, and I used those quotes from her book that she'd read and seen my film. That's the American voice in the film.
Was she nice?
Well, I think I maybe had one phone call, but she seemed nice. But yeah, that's what I mean. I've never met her.
She was very nice with me.
Yeah, no, she's amazing that she did that.
And I also found the name of the documentary with Stephen Wiltshire. It's called The Foolish Wise Ones.
Oh yeah, that's what. It's a strange title, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's
at the time.
It was, yeah, and it's. I think it was a French term, savant or something. But I can't speak French. But yeah. What does that mean? What's that translation of that?
Well, there are lots of there are a lot of people who are called autistic savants. It's a person affected with autism. Just let me get that back up. Hold.
But I think they used to have the word, idiot in there as well. That's my memory. That's a terrible thing to have.
Agreed.
Yeah. But that was. I mean, it was like 1980. I don't know.
1980s. 1983, I think.
Was it that early?
Well, it says 1986 here.
Yeah, I think that's more likely, because I think I saw maybe it's a repeat of the program, but I think I saw it in more like 1988 or something, 89 maybe.
It says here that an autistic savant is a person affected with autism who exhibits exceptional skill or brilliance in some limited field, such as mathematics or music.
Yeah, it's the genius side, isn't it? The genius word.
Yeah.
But it was like, so it's amazing. So yeah, my film obviously relied on, I suppose, the very, very able and amazing autistic people, which is a very small percentage as far as I understand. But unlike the Rain Man and unlike QED, I wasn't trying to emphasize that in the film. You know, I mean, you see Daniel do his amazing drawing, and you see it's his animation, and this is genius, absolutely genius. I can't fathom how he can do it. But I wasn't sort of stating that as part of the content. You know, it was just that was part of the visual to illustrate the voice of what it is to be, or what those particular people's experience of autism.
And I hope you don't mind me like pointing this out, but is that a basil brush behind you?
This isn't my room. It is Basil Brush. I'm just staying here. I'm animal sitting at the moment, but yeah, that's Basil Brush.
And but I also really, I know it's not your room, but like I like that little thing with the red hat over there.
Oh yeah, is it Teddy?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I was just trying. I just didn't want to be wrong about if it was a teddy or not.
I think it is a Teddy. Yeah, yes, it is a Teddy. It's like a there's a yeah, there's loads of toys up there. I can see a globe as well.
Yeah. Do you think that making A is for Autism changed how you and other people saw people with autism?
I don't know if it had that such a profound effect. I don't know. In fact, since I spoke to you, because I always thought the National Autistic Society now recommend this film, but I couldn't find anything about that on their site. So maybe I'm wrong in that. But I've got a memory that at some point they were recommending my film as, you know, as something to watch. Um, it's does it?
It's
What the
great.
question
That's
was? I think.
great.
Well,
It's great
yeah,
that
if it's true, it's good. But the thing is, they were no help at the beginning. They were totally suspicious, and I approached them, and they didn't like my idea at all.
why
They
were
thought
they
it was
suspicious?
they thought it was exploitative, and I was really worried about that. And when they said that, that made me even more worried about that. So I was like very insistent, and my producer was as well, that everybody got paid for everything, you know, very well. So it wasn't exploitative, I don't think. But there were people like that. There was somebody called Sheila Payne who I contacted when I was trying to get one of the artists that she had in her book, which she had this book which was like a genius, like sort of genius child artists, and one of them was Toulouse-Lautrec. But there was an autistic person in her book, and I can't remember the name. But you know, I couldn't get contact with that person because she didn't allow it, because she didn't like the idea of, she said, didn't like the idea of animating anybody's drawings, let alone autistic people's drawings. So that was definitely something I was encountering, that barrier of exploitation. And you know, I understand that. You know, it's like animating other people's drawings, but it's something I've done quite a bit. But I think you have to do it, and you have to do it right. I mean, I've seen it done wrong as well. You know, it's so it's something a lot of animation is made. You know, you see an artist's work as a still artist, that it becomes moving.
And I think like the National Autistic Society just wanted it to like autism to be like represented right, to be shown right in the right way.
Well, yeah, and I suppose they were worried
And you
that I was not.
did.
Well, I know, but they were worried I wouldn't, or something, I suppose. Which, you know, it's possible that could have happened, and maybe it was good for me to get that feedback, because it made me maybe more, you know, yeah, keen to address that I didn't want to ever be accused of exploitation. You know, that was like very worrying. So yeah. So what I say, I went somewhere else. What was that question you said then?
Well, it was like how do you think that making A's for Autism changed how you and other people saw people with autism?
I mean, I suppose it changed my view. Because I got to research an awful lot more about it, and I came across, you know, amazing artists as well, and yeah, and also the knowledge of how I find it all so interesting, because, you know, just how the child development of how people draw and start to draw, and why they stop drawing. You know, all of that was really interesting.
Tim,
So
sorry, but
yeah.
like when you were talking, like it froze a little bit, like when you were explaining.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay. So should I say what was I saying then?
Well, you were
Um,
saying like you were saying about like, well, I don't remember it. So what are you saying? Sorry, sorry.
I was saying, like some of the process, I came across, I mean, I can't remember why I went into it now, but I started saying, I started to go into the, I started to learn.
Started looking at people.
I started looking, no, I just started learning about like
Yeah,
how
that's what you
people
said.
draw. Yeah, the child, like how a child starts to draw, and how some children stop drawing and why they stop drawing. But the development of how drawing starts with, you know, lines and scribbles, and then
Yeah,
becomes like shapes, and then faces start to emerge, and then start, you know, hands and fingers and detail starts to get more involved. All that, you know, I found really interesting, and that's what you know, I tried to include that in the film, that process of, you know, with the beginnings of drawings, and tried to compare that
yeah,
with Daniel, you know, that was I was trying to compare and show a difference in how Daniel, you know, he said his first drawing was streetlights, which is, you
that was
know,
him.
that's that was Daniel's light, that's Daniel's voice, and it
Yeah,
was his first drawing, which is very, very unusual, you know, because kids just usually start to scribble really and make shapes and marks, whereas that was his first drawing, a streetlight. um yeah, so but I mean, I suppose the other thing is, you know, the film, it must have, I mean, you know, I think it's had a good effect. I mean, the film, I've heard it's used for speech therapy. I don't know why, but I don't know why speech therapies, but I've heard that quite a few times that speech therapists use the film, show the film, and it was on a DVD, and I think it was the first film made as a short on a DVD by the British Film Institute, and it's also, you know, been in libraries, and it still occasionally goes to festivals. So, and it's also been written about, you know, it's been written about in books, but whether it's been informed the greater public about autism, I suppose it might have for some people. I've just realised my battery's getting low, but let's see what happens. I could go downstairs and get my charger, but we need to pause it if we do that.
and Tim, I'm sorry in case like I didn't forget what you said like about like you were researching. Sorry about that.
Researching
Like
autism?
about like I don't remember exactly what you said, but I apologize.
No, it's okay. I start to ramble and I go off point as well. Um, I was just saying, because when I got the commission, I just started to go into the subject much deeper, and and
That's
I
what I
and I
meant.
yeah, and I contacted lots of people because I wanted to try and get, you know, I wanted to understand the subject as well as try and find collaborators. I was trying to find out as much about the subject as possible, and I found it really interesting, all that, and it started to just go like that because one thing led to another, you know. My producer had to sort of home that in to get me to start making the film, because we wouldn't have made it for the deadline. It was made, you know, it had to be made for this deadline that was going to be on TV, you
Would
know, 9 months ahead.
would you like me to post about the documentary on my Instagram and see if people know?
I don't mind. You can do what you can do what you would like. There is stuff on. I think there's stuff on the BFI. I think there's some like learning things you can. There's
Yeah.
some in fact, in classes. Some classes they have questions about some of the aspects of it. I think, as I remember, on the BFI site, I think there's something about that.
Tim, if you don't mind me asking, what's the battery like on your?
It's got a bit of red and it's low. I don't know what I don't know how much
Does
time
it
it's
say the
got.
number?
No.
Oh,
Oh, hold on. Does it? Oh, it's got look. Oh no, 8%.
oh, okay. So we'll just have. So what are we gonna do then? So do we keep
I don't mind.
going?
I don't
Okay.
mind. I can carry on going, and we can then just end, or I can go and get the charger. Or can
Okay.
you
So
pause the video if you do that?
okay. Okay. So can I just ask two more questions and then
Sure.
I'll
See what happens. Yeah.
what? There's this one question I missed like near the start. Like, why did you decide to make the film both animated and live action?
Um, I, I mean, I went to an animation course, so I was known for animation. Um, yeah. So and I animated other people's drawings in my first year. Actually, I made a film with other people, but you know, animating George Gross drawings. So I was known for that. So that was one of the reasons that it naturally seemed to, yeah, well, I wanted to include. Well, yeah, I was making a film. It became drawing because it was initially Stephen Wiltshire. So it was a love of somebody else's drawing that I wanted to try and get to move those drawings.
And I
So
remember
that
you
was why.
saying And I remember you saying, like, when we were talking the first time, that it was difficult, like, to animate something like turning on lights or something.
Yeah, well, I didn't say it makes sense to. I was having known more about autism. I got the idea then to. I was trying to cover certain. The film is like a number of sections of themes, quotes that
Yeah,
I was using around certain things, and then I wanted to sort of punctuate all of those those parts somehow or other. And I think I don't know where it came, but I then used these. It's a list, and it's probably not every autistic person, but some people have obsessions or repetitions that they do, like
fixations,
fixations. So like
like with
I
the
was trying to cover,
coin.
yeah, the coin and the light switch and the taps and the doors. You know, so certain people have got certain things that they would do again and again. So I was using those repetitions as a punctuation between the themes, you know, between that I was covering. So it didn't make sense to illustrate those. I didn't want to do drawings of those because all of the drawings in the film are other people's drawings, and that was part of the restriction. You know, I wouldn't have stopped putting my drawings in there. It wouldn't have made sense. So every drawing in that film is somebody else's that sometimes moves. It's animated, but sometimes it's just their drawing. So that's you know, so it's yeah. There's like the beginning section, which is, you know, kids at school doing all those drawings. I went to lots of schools and did lots of portraits with them and used all of those drawings to form that sequence. And then all of the other drawings are people like Daniel and Darren White and um, Christine. I can't remember her last. Taylor, I think her name is. Yeah. So it's all these different artists.
I'm
They're
trying to
credited
pick,
on the.
I'm trying to choose like what would be good as the last question, just because of the percentage on your phone and like on your device, I mean.
I,
Okay.
mean, I suppose just to say, but the other thing was I needed to make an 11-minute film. I didn't see how that could be 11 minutes of animation, but
Yes,
also
exactly 11 minutes.
yeah, it has to be 11 minutes because to go between two adverts. And but the other thing was I'd done this at college actually, my graduation film, and in my first year film actually, but over animated, so got too much footage and filmed things again and again, and then edited down those more like so I construct like a documentary more than you would an animation conventionally, which is a storyboard animatic
Yeah.
and making the film.
And cutting it down to exactly 11 minutes.
Yeah. So my first cut was the first cut that Channel 4 Claire Kitson saw, and she thought it was going well, was 17 minutes. So then I just had to keep cutting down 6 minutes of that, you know, to get it down to 11 minutes.
Well, you did that. Well, the editor did that quite well.
Thank you very much.
Like
And a
cutting it
guy
down
called,
to exactly 11
yeah,
minutes.
I was very involved with that, but also Matthew Dennis was the other person very involved with that. So he was the editor on the film, but yeah, we worked well together. So that was good.
Can I just ask one more question? Then,
Sure.
how did you feel seeing Aya's but oh no. Oh, sorry,
Oh,
sorry, Tim. It's just a notification just popped up.
oh, okay. How much time we got?
Well, it says on my end like at least around 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so how did you feel seeing Aya's for Autism on television for the first time?
I don't know if you remember my answer to this last time. It
Not
was
really.
it was strange because I'd worked on this for 9 months and nothing in my life, even though I had my daughter at that time. The AS Waters and my daughter happened at the same time, and so they came out at the same time, really. To use it,
She was
um,
born at the same time.
but well, she was born in June, but it was that same sort of period of 9 months. You know, they're both yeah, that's quite weird. They're both 9 months production. Anyway, I've never come across that. It said that before. Um, so yeah, it was on television after all 9 months of slogging, you know, hard work. You know, I really did a lot of work, and so did other people, lots of other people. And it was just like it was on Channel 4 in the disability season, and then I got one phone call from my dad, and he said, "Oh yeah, it was a good film. I thought it was a good film, but I couldn't really read the credits at the end, you know. So you know, I didn't get that right then. So that was all I got really after that. And then also I do remember this film with Joan Collins. I think it's called The Bitch. Was on the other side, which is
Language.
Well, that's the name of the film, I think. Which
Sorry,
is sort
sorry.
of
I
like,
was just saying because like maybe there'll be young people watching this interview. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, okay. Anyway, it's a terrible soft porn
Name.
film. So, that was on the side, on the other side at the same time, because it was on quite late at night, and that was that. But then after a few months, it was sent to festivals, and it won this festival in Australia, as I remember. And it won an award called the Mr. Chiff Award, which I haven't got now. It's fallen apart, but that was my first award. And then it won quite a few other awards, and some of them, quite bigger awards than McLaren, and I can't remember. I just started to pick up a few awards, and then I got offered teaching work, because it got some awards. I got offered some teaching work, and it did change my life, that film. So that was amazing, and it still is amazing. So it also led to other bits of animation work and working on other people's films, as well as teaching, and as well as sometimes making a film for, like, Studio AKA. Made a film called the Crayon Box That Talked, I think.
Yeah, the crayon
Uh,
box that talked. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So that came from AS Autism, really. That sort of work. So
Tim.
I became known
Sorry.
for animating other people's work, other people's drawings. Yeah.
Tim. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just? It was great to talk to you today, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
agreeing to do this again.
No problem. It's nice to see you again. Thanks.
Bang.
Thanks. Thank you for asking.